Okay, I think we're live. Welcome everyone to today's webinar, Building Trust with Sponsors to Find the Right Trial at the Right Time. Today we'll be talking about how StudyTeam and Inato help sites find and deliver on clinical trials. And we're pleased to be joined by Hillary King from Avanza Medical Research. She'll talk about her experience using both StudyTeam and Inato. Throughout the webinar, if you have thoughts to contribute, feel free to use the chat. We'll also be taking questions at the end of the presentation. And so whenever you have a question, you can submit that through the Q&A feature, and we'll queue those up for us to respond to in the Q&A section. But now let's meet all of our presenters. I'll introduce myself last, so let's start with Hillary. Hillary?
Hi, I'm Hillary. I'm an outreach coordinator here at a standalone research site, Avanza Medical Research Center in Pensacola, Florida. I'm happy to give my insights. It should be fun.
Thanks, Hillary. Liz?
Yeah.
Great. Hi, everyone. I'm Liz Beatty, co-founder, chief strategy officer at Inato. Inato is a free marketplace for sites to get access to the right trials at the right time for them and their patients. So excited to share more with you all about that today. A little about me. I actually came from pharma. I was at Bristol Myers Squibb for a whole career running trials. And before that, I was a study coordinator at Yale. So I have a good perspective of clinical research and all the challenges that exist today.
Great. Thanks, Liz. And I'm Alex Eastman. I'm the head of product at OneStudyTeam. We're the makers of StudyTeam, the product. And I'll say a few words about what we want to discuss today. Okay, let me take a step back. All right, so we're all on a mission to help sites be successful in clinical research. And OneStudyTeam helps sites manage their patient recruitment workflow through our product StudyTeam for Sites. So that helps sites build a database of patients who are interested in clinical trial opportunities, manage the workflow of getting those patients into the trial, screened and into the trial, manage visits, basically all of the trial management around the trial. And Inato helps sites find the right trials for their patients and get selected and activate quickly. And then again, OneStudyTeam helps sites enroll those patients. As I said earlier, we're really pleased to have Hillary join us today. Hillary, you'll provide some good perspective on both StudyTeam and Inato and how you've used them together at your site. We want to start our discussion today with a poll question. And so I'll introduce the question and then I'll hand it off to you, Liz. Our poll question is, what are your greatest challenges today in site and trial selection? Is it finding trials, awareness of trials, determining which trials to apply to, time wasted filling out feasibility forms, ending up with bad or poorly matched trials, or lack of sponsor response or feedback? And as you respond to that, I'll transition the mic over to Liz. Liz?
Great. Thanks, Alex. And everyone who's joined us today, we're looking forward to hearing your perspective on the challenges that you have today. We think you'll really tie in well to what we can share with you all as we go forward in the discussion. We give folks a few seconds to answer. Looks like there might be a problem with the submit button on the survey.
Yes, working on it.
All right, well, we might have to ask you, Hillary, to help answer from your perspective, from your side, since the submit button's not working as well. Is there a challenge on this list that you think comes top of mind to you?
Definitely time wasted filling out feasibility forms, I think, is a big one for me, and tracking down the right forms to fill out and not being copied on a certain email. So that's been a big challenge, I think. I would have picked that one.
And do you find you get asked a lot of the same questions from one form to the next?
Yes, I think it's very repetitive. Yeah. Archaic and repetitive. Yes.
All right, looks like we've tried it again. I see the surveys pop back up for me. Maybe if everyone could try to submit their answers. Oh, look, and everyone in the
Finding trials.
telling me their answers too. Lack of sponsor feedback, finding trials. That one came up quite a bit.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, not having an approved protocol. That's a good one. So I think those are all really relevant answers. All right. Well, I appreciate everyone adding in the chat. It looks like the survey is still not working. So we'll move on. But it sounds like from the chat responders, it's still about finding trials, repetitive work, and working with maybe early information that doesn't stay stable as you go forward and collaborating with that particular sponsor. So the lack of the protocol is definitely something we've heard as well. Great. All right, I'm going to see if I can close this and go back to the slides. So thanks everyone for working with us and adding your comments in the chat. We appreciate that. So, I wanted to start by starting our conversation today with Alex and Hillary around this site selection process and these pain points that everyone was just chiming in on. We see many challenges in sites getting the right trials for them and their patients linked to this site selection process that has been the same for a very long time, using surveys or feasibility questionnaires to try to get selected for a given trial. And a lot of the issues that we've heard from sites and sponsors is really about the need to work on trust and transparency through this process to make sure the right sites get into the right trials and sites can offer those trials then for their patients. So we've heard on the sponsor side that a lot of sponsors don't trust the information that they're asking these feasibility questionnaires, which is, really interesting data for us because they send these questionnaires, repeatedly to sites like yours, Hillary, and then they get them back and end up having a perspective on the number of patients that sites share as one of the key drivers of mistrust through these forms. So curious, Hillary, from your perspective, from trust and transparency and some of these questionnaires that you have, how does your site think about access to patients from a feasibility questionnaire perspective?
Yeah, definitely. I was surprised with the lack of sponsor trust and access to the right studies. Since we've been using Inato, having the right studies for us pop up based on previous studies that we've done has been really, really helpful. Putting in our criteria on the back end there, getting our feasibility numbers right and trusted, that's been, very, very helpful.
Yeah. Well, this links very well to a survey we did in the December time period. We went out to sites and sponsors to ask this question directly and gather some data on trust and transparency. It was really telling for us. 72% of sites think that sponsors trust their feasibility responses, but only 13% of sponsors have significant trust in these answers. This survey was based on 206 respondents, so we had a really nice sample size. 127 were sponsors or CROs, and 79 were from sites of all different sizes and types of organizations. So I think this is really telling information that shows sites are spending time and effort filling out these feasibility questionnaires, and then ultimately the sponsors really aren't trusting in this information. So really speaks to your point, Hillary.
That was shocking to me to hear, because I spend a lot of time, on the back end getting really accurate feasibility numbers, and then to have them only trusted 13% was eye-opening.
And Alex, I'm curious in your perspective. I know the OneStudyTeam helps sites get the right patients once they're started into the trials. Were you surprised to see this disconnect up front before they get started in the trial?
I was a little less surprised by it, to be honest, because I've heard a similar thing in my work. I've heard sponsors of CROs say, they'll ask sites for number of patients they think they can recruit, and then they'll cut that in half.
Wow.
And they'll go with that number. But I think that comes from, I think the lack of trust comes from a lack of access to information, right? So for example, if sites are putting together or asked to put together feasibility responses before they have the details of the protocol, then understandably, there's going to be some margin of error around those feasibility estimates. And then later on in the trial, when sites start to enroll and don't achieve the feasibility numbers that they had estimated in the beginning, if sponsors don't have enough information about why that is, what aspects of the protocol are contributing to patients either failing to enroll or not being interested in the trial, then sponsors don't know what to attribute that to, and maybe attributing it to the inaccuracy of the estimates rather than what's really happening. And so I think one of the ways that StudyTeam helps here is by not just helping the sites manage their patient database and the recruitment process, but also by providing more information to sponsors about what's really happening so that they can see if we're not hitting the numbers that we thought we were going to hit, why.
Yeah, and we hear often that quite a bit changes. I know someone earlier made a comment about having a non-final protocol at this stage, and quite a bit can change before your site initiation visit, and then things can still change even into enrollment. I'm sure this has to have a big impact on sites being able to be accurate in their estimates. Hillary, do you have a perspective on that? As things change over time, how do you account for that at your site?
Yeah, you kind of got to roll with the punches, huh? I think this happens a lot in our pediatric studies. I can think of, many times that I would think a protocol or a study looks like it's very straightforward and easy to enroll for. And then we come to find out, later that there is a 75% screen fail rate because of a ton of blood draws on one visit or something like that. So being able to get more transparency before getting too deep is invaluable, very valuable. So
yeah, for sure. I think this links really well to the double click we had to share on this data with the group today. So sites are looking for this transparency from sponsors. From the survey, we saw that sites were asked what would increase their confidence in their enrollment estimates. And quite a few said having the full inclusion-exclusion criteria from the protocol. 63% is a good number of sites that said this is really critical for them to be accurate in their enrollment estimates. Others spoke to what you were just saying, Hillary, about expected screen failure rate or biomarker prevalence rates. So if sponsors have that information, it's really helpful for sites to understand what the expected rates are, even if it could change as we actually get going with the protocol. Study design was another key area where sites were looking for more transparency up front, as well as an easier way to search the EHR and database. I think sites are using technology. They have more electronic medical health records, even OneStudyTeam available for them from a patient access or recruitment perspective. But is there an easy way up front for sites to understand access to patients without investing too many hours into the process before they're even selected for the study? So we've certainly heard that quite a bit from sites, that how much time to invest up front, how could it be easier for them to answer some of these questions would be very helpful.
Very.
Yeah. Any additional thoughts around this from the group?
Definitely the full I&E criteria. Having that is a game changer when I'm running a database search. If I'm only given partial I&E criteria, that's all I can run for. So having more will definitely build trust.
Yeah. Yeah, I find these really fascinating. You know, the idea that sponsors aren't sharing expected screen failure rates. That's unfortunate. Um, Even then, I think sponsors' estimates of expected screen failure rates are just estimates, and in reality, it often ends up being different, maybe worse than they expected. Um, Again, on that, I think that you know, sponsor study team helps sponsors get more information about um, why patients are failing to enroll in a trial. I think sites want that same transparency. I think sites would really benefit from knowing not just how they're doing on the trial, but how other sites are doing on the trial, or how they're doing relative to other sites, to know that the challenges that they're facing aren't unique to them, but are shared across multiple sites. I think that's the kind of transparency that sites would really benefit from.
Yeah, sponsors get a back end through study team, on what I'm doing. I don't get a back end view on a lot of this stuff. So
For sure.
Mhm.
So it's really interesting for us as we went through and looked at the survey results in detail. Despite the distrust and the lack of transparency that exists today, it was resounding. Nearly all sponsors, it was almost 90%, said that they would work with more sites and that they need to do this, especially with their diversity goals coming forward. So this is really interesting. There's this lack of transparency, there's problems with trust, yet sponsors have a really high willingness to work with new centers that maybe they haven't worked with in the past to meet their goals. So, any thoughts on ways that we can help overcome these barriers of trust and transparency? Alex, I'm super curious from your perspective, with this acknowledgement that sponsors want to go to a wider range of sites. Is there a way that we can enable that with sites through technology?
Yeah, I mean, I think you know more about Inato than I do, but it feels like Inato is really helping to bring more trials to more sites, and then study team also can help those sites, particularly sites that are newer to research, with the tools that they need to be able to do that. And the sites budgets are limited, and so tools that are free to sites that can help them succeed in these trials, I think, can be invaluable to doing that, to being able to make more trials available to more sites.
Yeah, and for sure, this is a key part of what we're spending a lot of energy around at Inato. So how do we flip the model for sites, get them out of these feasibility questionnaires, answering the same questions over and over again, make it easy for them to actually get to the right trials for them and their patients, and reduce a lot of this burden. So I think with that, I'd love to jump into showing everyone a little bit about the work we're doing on the Inato end, to help sites really get in the driver's seat and reduce burden along the way for site selection and feasibility overall. So let me share my screen. This is where you have to. Bear with me. Okay. So for sites that aren't familiar with Inato, we have a marketplace where sites can come and get matched to the right trials for them and their patients. So when you get started on Inato, you can set up a site profile like the one I have open here. The site profile is a great way for you to be specific around your areas of interest for trials, what disease areas you're focused on, and then go into really detailed areas that are important for sponsors as well, like diversity. So we ask sites to share with us the ethnicity and race breakdown of the patients that they serve in their community. We have areas for them to go into their community engagement and show examples. So these are real examples from sites around activities they do in their community to support representation in trials and inclusion in trials. We also allow sites to share with us culturally appropriate marketing materials that they use regularly and ways that they reach out to patients. So, definitely ways that they're reaching out to patients in their community and things that they're doing more holistically than study by study. We even have a whole area around accessibility and adaptations. So a lot of the great community sites we work with today have accommodations for different populations that they serve in their community, whether it's having after-hour appointments or childcare support. This is a great way for sites to show all the great support they have in place for their patients that they're serving in their community. So, with that, I think diversity is one of those key areas that we hear from sponsors as a reason to broaden access to different types of sites. So we're really trying to make that easy for sites to have in their profile and make sure that they can use over and over again for trial applications. This goes on to their research team and languages they speak and all of the different ways that sites can really differentiate in this space. So, Alex, I know diversity and inclusion is something that we focus on a lot at Inato. I'm curious your perspective on this from OneStudyTeam.
Yeah, we think a lot about that too. We're committed to helping increasing diversity and representation in clinical trials, and one of the things that we focus on is providing insight into what's happening with diverse populations in clinical trial recruitment. So, for example, if potential candidates that are being considered for the trial, if that's pretty representative, but then once you get to screening, all of a sudden minorities are less representative, then that tells you something about there's something in the process or with the protocol that's ruling out minority populations, and then we want to provide information about why. Are there certain eligibility criteria, or are there other reasons why patients are declining to participate in the trial that are disproportionately affecting minorities? Because without that information, it's hard to fix a problem that we haven't yet diagnosed.
Yeah, completely agree. Really important aspect, I think, as we go forward in helping achieve our goals across studies is having the right patients enrolled in the trial for sure. Real quick to close out the profile so I can show you then what happens. We do collect trial experience, and we try to make it really easy to add your CVs for your research team and other capabilities that you have at your center, because all of this helps to match you then as a site to the right trials where you meet the requirements and it could be a good fit for your center. So after sites set up their research profile like this, on the sponsor side, we have sponsors posting multiple studies across different disease areas. And what will happen is a site will get an email about trial matches that looks just like this. So based on their profile, our system can then send a list of trials that match their site's capabilities so they can consider that for sites for different trial opportunities that are coming up. What's great about it is we try to give sites the information that will help them make decisions about which trial could be right for them to spend time on. So you see this one's a trial match. We do pre-fill information. So anything that we already captured in your profile, we can pre-fill for you as you go forward if you're interested in applying for this particular trial. We have the trial details and some highlights that we share. And this is a great way for sites to say, yes, I'm interested, or no, I'm not, and let us know whether or not it's something they want to explore. From there, if a site is interested, they can just go ahead and click on the trial in the email, and it will bring them right to that opportunity to look into. We have a really easy way that you can sign a confidentiality agreement. And again, we're trying to bring those insights up front for sites to make it easy for them to know more about the study and whether or not it's a good fit. So, Hillary, I'm curious from your perspective, I know mostly feasibility questionnaires are one study at a time. Seeing a digest like the email I just shared that has multiple trial opportunities on it, is that a value for sites when you're considering what trial to pick next?
Absolutely. Huge value. We first got, started working with Inato because we were doing a study with a certain drug, and it was sending us other trials using the same drug. So that was a really big help. We didn't even know, about these studies. And since we already had familiarity and was already enrolling for this study, it was a really good segue into another one that we would have had no idea about, and was able to get that. I really like the CDA, the electronic CDA. That's been really, really helpful and easy for us to quickly, start talking shop about if we really want to continue on with the study.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And to your point, look how quick that was when you already have your CDA in place.
Yeah. And then boom, everything opens up. Yeah. There's nothing quicker than that. No emails back and forth and printing out. Yeah. Very helpful.
Yeah, we're trying to get rid of a lot of the waste that happens in email. It just takes time to go back and forth in emails. So
and they get lost.
The electronic CDA, and it gives you right to the study design information that you need. We find this is very helpful for sites as they go forward.
Very, very helpful.
Great. So you'll see here, we do digitize the study design overall. We know this is really important for sites. Mm-hmm. And then we're very specific about site requirements. So we get this directly from our sponsors we work with on the trials to help bring transparency to sites about what are their expectations around experience, the team, enrollment, equipment, etc. So this is a really great way for us to build that transparency that we know doesn't exist in the traditional feasibility model that's here today. If you are interested in this study after you view it on Inato, you can just go ahead and go forward. And we have a really quick way to check your fit. So this is a way to do a quick assessment to see if this is the right trial for your site based on those requirements. And if you're missing something, if you're able to get that in place in time for this particular trial. So as I go ahead and select these, I'm curious, Hillary, from your perspective around requirements, are there other things beyond just the general requirements for a study that you think are really important for sponsors to share up front to help you make a decision about a trial?
To choose us, or that we want to know about the study?
Yeah, to choose you. So
yeah.
Like if you had to prioritize, what would you want to share with sponsors? What would that be?
I think, our over 20 years experience, that's hard to just say in a check my fit. Mm-hmm. Our culture here, how we work together, how detail oriented we are, our level of quality that we put into collecting the data, that kind of stuff doesn't really get portrayed on just hey, we've met the requirements kind of thing. Yeah. Culture and work ethic, I think, would be hard to display.
Yeah, absolutely. So you'll see here, this was a quick way to check your requirements, but that's not where it ends. You can then go on and share a lot of those details about your center and why you're a good fit for that particular opportunity. We think this is really important. One of the survey findings we had in the Trust and Transparency Survey was that 62% of sites agreed that the current traditional feasibility questionnaires that exist today limit their ability to share why they're best suited for a trial. So, what makes them a good fit doesn't show up in those questionnaires often. To your point, culture is something hard to answer in a questionnaire. So how do you make sure that that comes out well in your applications and gets in front of a sponsor?
Yeah, definitely.
Great. Next, I wanted to show you from a site perspective, we are trying to make it as easy as possible for sites through the whole process. So we reuse your information during the check your fit process. As you apply for trials, we try to store information to your profile and reuse again. And then actually, as you get started and you get selected for studies or selected for a pre-study evaluation visit, we're trying to make that easier for sites as well. We've heard from a lot of sites that the handoff back to the CRO or to the sponsor puts them back in that email process where there's a lot of redundant work. So you'll see here, we try to make it really easy for sites to plan a visit if they need to have a pre-selection visit, and also do any documents that are required for that visit. So again, trying to take some of the redundancy out of the process. Certainly curious, Hillary, if you find as you go forward into activation, are there some pain points that your site has experienced through this process?
Yeah, having, like you were saying, having that centralized portal for documents, that's been extremely helpful. Not having to hunt down all these different emails, trying to find the right documents. Also giving different accesses to different team members so they can go in and fill out their portion, come out, auto saves. That has been my biggest benefit from that.
Yep, for sure. So you'll see here for the regulatory documents that are standard and even some sponsor specific ones, we can actually pre-fill a lot of that information already from your profile and from your enrollment plan that you've done for that particular trial, really trying to save time instead of redoing the same information over and over again. So again, trying to reduce some of that administrative burden for sites. Great. And then I just wanted to show you quickly how this looks on the sponsor side. So we provide a lot of insights to the sponsors about how their trial is doing compared to other trials in the same area, and then provide all of the profile information as a comprehensive view of the sites that are a good fit. You'll see here for this particular DLE trial, this is getting high interest from community sites, much higher than traditional studies in dermatology. And 59% of sites that have engaged with this particular protocol are interested. What we also do is we provide insights to the sponsors of why sites aren't interested or why they've declined the trial. And again, just like we're promoting transparency on the site side of the Inato experience, we want to also improve transparency for the sponsors as well. So any feedback that sites give us on the trial requirements, on the protocol design, on competition, we can then bring all that together for the sponsors in one area so they can understand how their trial is doing in the community site perspective and what they could do to make it easier for sites to participate and meet those trial requirements. Great. All right. So I hope that was a good glimpse into what we're doing at Inato to support sites in reducing some of this burden and making it easy for them to get those right trials for their patients.
Thanks, Liz.
Definitely.
With that, I am going to try to share my screen so that we can walk through study team.
Alex, I can first show the slide.
Yep, that would be great. Okay, give me just 1 second. I also want to make sure that I can share my screen later. Okay. All right. So yes, study team, as I said earlier, is a suite of products that helps sites prepare for and manage their clinical trial. So the sorts of things that study team helps sites with is with the enrollment process, the recruitment and enrollment process, the workflow of identifying candidates and contacting candidates and having them come in for screening. Through study team, you can message patients, for example, to remind them about visits or to offer a clinical, an opportunity to participate in a clinical trial. You can manage visits and therefore manage the financial aspects around the visit. Study team also helps sites manage source and is a single place where they can manage all of their patients, including referrals that come from referral vendors. Let's see, let me try to share my screen here. Okay, hopefully this is working. So here I've logged into StudyTeam and I've opened up a trial. So imagine I'm at a site working on this trial, and as you can see here, I have a list of potential candidates for the trial. I have a list of patients that we're pre-screening and a list of patients that are already actively enrolled. I can easily move patients throughout the process. So let's say that it's time to have this patient come in for a screening visit. If for whatever reason they don't pass the screening, then I just simply indicate that they're screen failure. And so it really helps me manage the workflow of clinical trial recruitment. Can easily add additional patients as I identify more patients, and fill out patient logs for the sponsor, right? That instead of having to send in, Excel spreadsheets or paper-based logs, I can just answer those log questions right here within the application, and then a de-identified version of this gets shared automatically with sponsors without requiring any more effort from the sites. It's de-identified, and it will strip out columns that are logged only for the site to see. And then the beauty is that having used StudyTeam to identify candidates and manage the recruitment process on this one trial, I kind of automatically build up a patient database of patients at the site. And Hillary talked earlier about the benefit of being able to do an EMR or database search to be able to help answer feasibility questionnaires, for example.
Mm-hmm.
My experience has been that many EMR systems don't make that easy. And so having another system where you can manage that patient list and filter a list to try to find candidates for other trials can be helpful. And so here within the StudyTeam patient database, I can easily filter this list. So I could, for example, filter to patients that had been considered for another trial in the same therapeutic area, and for patients that screen failed or pre-screen failed for that trial that might be good candidates to reach out for the next trial. StudyTeam can also help sites manage their visit schedule, right, when visits are coming up, and can also be used. Sites can use it to manage tasks that are related to the trial or to the recruitment process throughout the trial. And as I said earlier, can also be used to message patients directly through the application. So with that, Hillary, now that we've seen both of these solutions, could you share a few more words about your experience working with StudyTeam and Inato at your site?
Yeah, I just think that everyone should be using these two free applications. Inato makes finding a trial, fitting you with the right trial, super seamless, executing the CDA, helping, holding your hand all the way along. And then once you do get the study, StudyTeam has kept me so organized. It's a big bank of all my patients. When I have a patient calling in, because I'm recruiting for multiple studies, obviously, and when I have a patient calling in and I have no idea where they're coming from, a quick, hop on StudyTeam, find out all my notes, maybe why they screen failed. Oh, I was looking for them to join another study. So keeping me organized, and then the tasks features on StudyTeam, because some people will be, on hold for one reason or another, and then it reminds me to call them and stick up with them or keep up with them. So yeah, great tools. I've been using them for a while now, and I don't think I would be able to do recruitment and or startup without these.
Great, thanks, Hillary.
Yeah.
Before we turn to Q&A, Liz, maybe you and I can share a few words about the vision for where we see things going, where our products are going, and how we hope to address sites' needs even further. Would you like to start with?
Yeah. Absolutely. Thanks, Alex. And Hillary, really appreciate your perspective of using these tools. So, from my perspective, I think it's just really important that we all think about how we improve the ecosystem for sites in clinical research and make it easier for sites to conduct research and spend time on patient care. I know when I ran a research center in my career, earlier in my career, spending time with the patients was a really important part of my day, and getting bogged down with administrative or redundant work wasn't high value. So this is where I think we can really leverage technology to help bridge this gap and improve the ecosystem for sites and ultimately patients who could benefit from being in these trials. So from where we're going with Inato, we're really looking to continue to improve the site profiles, continue to make that really robust for sites and easy to reuse, reducing that redundant and administrative work associated with it. We've made a really big investment in diversity and inclusion to make sure sites can showcase unique things that they're doing in this area, as we know this is a key area where sponsors are looking to pick additional sites to support their goals. And this is something we're now doing globally as well, which is really important for clinical research. And then last but certainly not least, we've been making a lot of investment into the next steps for sites and activation. So scheduling your pre-study evaluation visits, pre-filling your regulatory documents is just step one for us. We're looking to make training and vendor access and IRB submission and Medicare coverage analysis and all these things much easier for sites, because this is where we can speed up the process for sites to focus on enrollment and get them then using tools like OneStudyTeam to help them deliver on that enrollment. So this is where we think technology has a really great place to add benefit for sites and make it easier for them.
Great, thanks, Liz. Hillary, it looked like your eyes got big at some of that, some of the vision that.
Yeah, I'm really excited, like the regulatory piece that's coming and yeah, setting up PSVs and all of that. So I'm excited.
Thanks, Liz. Thanks, Hillary. Regarding vision for study team, we've talked a lot today about transparency and information sharing, and sponsors understandably have access to a lot of information. I would love for sites to have access to more information as well. Like I mentioned earlier, for sites to have more visibility into how they're doing relative to other sites on the trial, whether the challenges that they're seeing are common across other sites. I think that information can give power to sites and leverage to be able to understand where they're doing well, where they can do better, and how to communicate their challenges with more leverage to sponsors. So that's part of our vision for study team for sites, is empowering, enabling those insights back to sites.
Yeah,
I think that's really great. I think the benefit of these technology tools is you do collect a lot of data, and then insights can help make better decisions and improve behaviors. So we're thinking about that as well, to help sponsors and sites better differentiate and position themselves for site selection and ultimately what mix of sites they pick for their trials. These insights on our end are also really useful to help with decision making. So I think that's great, Alex, to learn.
Thanks, Liz. Well, why don't we turn now to our Q&A. And so if any audience members have questions, feel free to post them in the Q&A section. We've got a few questions so far. Maybe I'll pass the first one to you, Liz. There's a question about Inato's model. Is it free for sites, and how are you able to do that?
Yeah, so it is free for sites. So we don't charge sites any money for getting matched to trials or getting selected in trials. We're not a business development cost for sites. So I think that's a really important thing to note. We do charge sponsors for posting their trials on Inato and getting matched to that right mix of sites. So that is how we're able to do this. All of the trials that are posted on Inato are trials that sponsors have asked us to post. So we don't pull any data from clinicaltrials.gov. These are real trial opportunities for sites, which I think is really important for sites to know that we're trying to build transparency about how many sites will be selected through Inato, in which countries, and with what requirements, to make that process as easy as possible for sites.
Great, thanks, Liz. There's another question here, I think, about StudyTeam, about are you able to add why a patient screen failed or why a screen failed patient did not?
Yes, that's majorly helpful. When I put why they screen failed, I can go in and sometimes I'll be looking for insights on how to hone in my phone screen, or hey, I'm looking for, somebody screen failed for asthma while I'm doing an asthma study now. So I want all those people. So that's been a big help, those insights through StudyTeam.
That's great. That's great. And that information is also valuable to sponsors, again, so that they can see why patients are screen failing or declining to participate in a trial, because right, there are cases where they might use that information to adjust a protocol, to amend a protocol, to be able to open it up for more patients.
Yeah.
All right, with that, let's send the next question to you, Liz. See, I lost the question that I was going to ask. There was one question that I think may have been posted before you talked about the vision for the product, about are you planning to incorporate a regulatory aspect?
Yes. So actually, this came mostly from sites, to be transparent with everyone. There's a lot of time that sites spend in preparing regulatory documents and submissions and the activation process overall, that we feel like the same technology that we use for storing your information on your profile and pre-filling your information for trials can be brought forward then into this next step of the process. So we're really excited about this. This is, again, us listening to sites about what's important for them and how we can make it easier for sites to participate and stay in research. So this will be a major investment area for us in 2024.
Okay.
Awesome.
Another question for you, Liz. There's a question about countries. I think you mentioned something about global, like what, are there specific countries where Inato is available, and how does that play?
Yes. So we are global, but not all studies are global or include every country. So this is where we are trying to be transparent. So when you come to Inato, you can receive those emails with that specific curated list of trials that we think are a good match for you. But you can also come and browse all studies that are available on Inato. And what we try to do is show you what countries are being considered by the sponsor. So this is really up to the sponsor of the trial in what countries specifically they're looking to pick sites in. And it's very important for us that we don't waste anyone's time. So if you're in a country that's just not on the current country footprint or list for that trial, you won't get an email about that particular trial because there may not be an opportunity for you to participate. However, this is again where insights becomes important. If there are a lot of sites who are interested in a particular country in a disease area, but that country is not in the trial, we will share that with the sponsors so that they know there might be a good reason to open up in Spain or Italy or some other country because there's a lot of interest from sites. So we always think we don't want to waste the site's time. If it's not in your country, it's not worth exploring. However, if you're interested in that disease area, let us know in your profile. And that could be really important data we bring back to the sponsors to open up in your country down the line.
Great. Love the topic of information sharing and how that data can help make, promote good decisions.
Yeah. And this is where the profiles are so important for us.
I was just about to say.
Yeah. Someone else asked about being very specific about what disease areas they want trials for. This is where the profile information becomes really important for us. If you don't want to see a broad range of trials in internal medicine, but only in weight loss, you can be that specific in your profile around disease interest. And you can even say, I don't want to receive trials in this disease area anymore. And we use our technology then to continue to come up with a better curated list for you and your site for which trials you get matched to. If you think about Netflix and you get your top picks on Netflix based on what you watch, it's very similar for how our technology is curating an ongoing list of interest for you and your center and making sure you get those right trial opportunities presented to you.
Yeah, sometimes I'll go through the Inato profile and, like or dislike just to kind of tickle the algorithm there and make sure we're getting the right trials for us.
Yep. And please do that, because that's how you get the best options.
Yeah, exactly. I'll be like, oh, what should I do right now? Let's go tickle the algorithm. Yeah.
All right. Thanks, Hillary. Thanks, Liz. Let's see. There's a question about in-study-team that schedule. Does that link with your Outlook calendar? That quick answer there. Yes, it does. You can connect study team to an Outlook calendar or another calendar like your Google Calendar, and that's kind of bi-directional. That way, when you schedule visits in study team, it will show up on your other calendar, and when you have things scheduled on your other calendar, you'll see that time's not available when you schedule visits in study team. Let's see. There was a question about whether study team is also free for sites, since you spoke about that for Inato. Liz, I'll just mention that yes, study team also is free for sites to use on any trial, regardless of whether a sponsor, whether the sponsor is also using study team. But in those cases where the sponsor is using study team, the sponsor pays a license fee for the insight that they get.
I've used study team for sponsors who have not, been on study team. I'll just open up a kind of a dummy one just to keep all my patients in study team.
That's great. With that, I think we've addressed most of the questions. Let's see, Liz, any parting words before we wrap?
Yeah, so I would say for those who use OneStudyTeam today, but not Inato, it's super easy to join Inato. We don't ask for a lot of information up front, and really only ask for information related to trial applications. So that's how you build your profile over time, is as you apply for studies, we learn more about your center. So we're trying not to make this a high burden for sites and make it super easy. So if you are interested, please come to Inato.com. You can set up your profile. You can start to figure out how to get your algorithm just right to get your right trial matches, so that you can, really get support in finding that right trial for you and your patients, instead of spending time trying to find those contacts at all the different pharmaceutical companies. I will share, we work with mostly top 40 pharmaceutical companies. So a lot of the really large companies, because they have a lot of trial opportunities that we think are great to promote through Inato in our system. And they often tend to be the hardest ones to figure out who is the right contact for me to get in touch with. And by the time things are posted on clinicaltrials.gov, it's almost too late to get selected for that study. So this is a great way for sites to get connected to many of those top leading pharmaceutical companies and get trials with them.
Great, thanks, Liz. I'll say, in my own closing comments, that it's been very great working with you on this webinar, and there's a lot of complementarity between Inato and study team. And likewise, any sites that are using Inato but aren't yet familiar with study team, we welcome you. It's really easy to get started with study team, and I think we've got a great partnership here in the way that we're working with to help sites have more trial opportunities and to be successful on those trials. And so, Hillary, we'll leave the closing to you. What would
Well, yeah.
Thank you for the work that you do. Sites are the backbone of clinical trials, and may not get the the visibility, the appreciation that they deserve as often as they deserve. And so, thank you for the work that you do.
Oh,
What
thank
would you like to say to the audience here?
Yeah, there's just really no downside to working with both of these platforms. They're making my life easier, and I think in clinical research we wear many hats, and keeping those hats organized and the insights that I've gained from both of these platforms have been very valuable, and everyone needs to be using them.
All right. Well, thank you, Hillary. Thank you, Liz.
Yeah.
It's been great presenting with you. Thanks to the audience for joining, and have a good day, everyone.
Yeah, thank you guys.
Thanks, everyone.
Bye, everyone.
Bye.